Today is January 20th, 1981. I'm John Polyester reporting for Channel 7 Action News. I have just been informed that the Iran hostage crisis in the United States Embassy in Tehran has been resolved. For those of you who are unaware of the crisis, let me shed some light on the subject. The Iran hostage crisis began on November 4th, 1979, when 53 diplomats and additional U.S. citizens were held hostage by members of the Muslim student followers of the Imam's line. For about 444 days, the hostage crisis remained a stalemate. Today, however, the United States has worked out a deal with the militant terrorists for the safe return of the surviving hostages. I will now go to Ryan Montana in Tehran, who is now interviewing a recently released hostage. Ryan, are you there?
Thank you, John. I'm here live in Tehran, Iran, with Rufus Dawson, a member of the American State Department and former political military advisor in the American Embassy. Rufus Dawson was held hostage, along with 52 other American citizens, for 444 days. Fortunately, there were no casualties. In an attempt to rescue the hostages, President Jimmy Carter launched his Operation Eagle Claw. The objective of Operation Eagle Claw was to establish a staging site inside of Iran, rescue the hostages, and extract them from the embassy back to the United States of America. Unfortunately, Operation Eagle Claw was an abysmal failure and resulted in the death of 8 American servicemen. Years later, the situation was resolved by the signing of the Algiers Accord. Now, I'll go to Rufus Dawson with a few questions. How are you doing, Rufus?
To tell the truth, I'm just happy to be alive right now. I'm glad I could go back to the States and see my family. It's been a really rough period for me, but I'm glad I got through it.
By the way, Rufus, you can take off your blindfold now. You're among friends.
Oh, thank you. Light. Feels good.
So, Rufus, tell me, what were the conditions like when you were living as a hostage?
They were very rough for me. Even though I didn't experience any physical assaults on me, I was never hurt at all, but I did suffer a lot of emotional distress. We were constantly blindfolded. We weren't allowed to leave the holding room except to go take our weekly showers. We were always fed in that room, and we never knew what was going to happen to us next. It was always a surprise. And also, during the first couple of weeks of our detainment period, we were paraded around Tehran, and people constantly joked at us and threw stuff at us just to make us feel even worse than we already are.
Wow, that's terrible. Now, this may seem like a really stupid question, but I need to know. Were you ever scared at any moment while you were held hostage?
I don't really like to talk about what happened to me in the past because it was so emotional, but I'll tell you anyway because I feel it needs to be told to the world. I was actually very scared to be in a situation. I was scared to know if I was going to live or die, and I was mostly scared about what my family was going through right now. I always thought about their emotional distress and how it would feel to be in their situation.
Did you ever find out how the terrorists actually took hold and seized the American embassy?
It happened so fast. I never really understood how the simple protest that was going outside exploded into such a worldwide event. I never imagined such a thing could happen. I heard of news about the protest, but I never knew the outcome, what would happen.
I have one final question for you, Rufus. What do you plan to do when you return to the United States?
That's a very easy question to answer. I'm going to go home and see my family. It's been a long time. I really miss them.
Well, thank you, Rufus, for your time, and
no problem.
We greatly appreciate you coming here to interview. And back to you.
Thanks, Ryan, for that stunning interview. Top-notch work. In related news, political scientists are now arguing that the hostage crisis may have been a primary factor in the election of 1980. In last year's election, former President Jimmy Carter's approval rating significantly dropped to an all-time low, which ultimately led to his loss to President Ronald Reagan. With that said, we will now go back to Tehran, where Ryan Montana is attempting to interview one of the terrorists who is now being taken into custody. Ryan, are you there?
Alright, thank you, John. I'm going to try to get a word now with one of the culprits involved in the Iran hostage crisis.
Enter.
Hi, can I get a word with this young man?
Make it quick.
Alright, thank you, sir. Right here, I'm here with Abdul Ali Jabbar Hassan Mohammed, and I'm here to ask him a few questions about his involvement in the Iran hostage crisis. First off, how was this entire ordeal for you?
Honestly, I did not expect the situation to develop in the way it did. It was a very long period of time we were in there. We basically acted on impulse and we were completely unprepared.
Now, Mr. Hassan, what was your goal in seizing the American embassy?
We simply wanted to protest the U.S. government intervention in Iran. We also wanted the U.S. to return the Shah, who was our previous leader here, and we wanted to try him for war crimes.
Now, tell me, Mr. Hassan, how did you plan to take the hostages?
Actually, our original plan was just to occupy the U.S. embassy for several hours so we can voice our objections to U.S. intervention. We just wanted to stage a protest, but we did not expect the situation to develop into a 444-day hostage crisis. Once we captured the embassy with the hostages, we could do nothing but keep them.
Now, rumor has it, but I've heard that the terrorists have treated the hostages terribly. Now, in your honest opinion, how do you feel that you treated the hostages?
As we had not expected to take any hostages, we were completely unprepared. We had a lot of people in very limited facilities, so we were very unprofessional. We tried to treat them as humanely as possible, but I think we gave them an extreme amount of psychological pressure and fear.
Now, Mr. Hassan, I have one final question for you. Looking back, how do you feel about the outcome of the Iran hostage crisis?
I understand that many Americans and others around the world have a very negative view of our actions, but the situation should be viewed in the context of events that happened. They were very full of tension, and everyone has to understand that we reacted to the actions of U.S. intervention here. Actions were very extremist, but the situation had to be handled in the way it was. We made great strides in getting our voices heard around the world.
Now, thank you, Mr. Hassan, for your time, and thank you, sir. And now we'll go back to John in the studio.
Thanks, Ryan, for another absolutely breathtaking interview. And now, a Channel 7 exclusive. We have for you, the viewer, amateur footage of inside events that took place during the Iran hostage crisis. Take a look.
Let's torture his ass! Shut up! God, you're ugly. You're worse than the Nazis.
That made a whole lot of sense.
He's so cute, though. Look at him. Look at this kid. He's so cute. It's like Spider-Man, Brandon. Whoa! Whoa! You!
Is there a reason we're torturing them?
You guys are retarded. It's the Iran hostage crisis. He's a ginger. Who would have thought? Kill the ginger.
One word, folks. Shocking. Well, I hope you enjoyed our special presentation on the Iran hostage crisis. I'm John Polyester, reporting for Channel 7 Action News. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Channel 7 News is brought to you by Wikipedia.